In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a local Windows 11 account and not allow Microsoft to force us to use an online account. Now, Microsoft has removed some of the ways to do this, but what I'm going to do is start with the easiest method and then work towards the hardest method. Now, I don't want to take credit for finding these various ways to set up a local account. I've watched a lot of YouTube videos. I've done a lot of research online. I've put the names of some YouTube channels which I've been watching to help with this video below. Go and subscribe, go and show the love for them sharing this kind of stuff. I'm not sure where they got all the information from, but I've been searching for some of the stuff online, Reddit, Google, YouTube, etc. But I'm going to show you a whole bunch of methods now, at least 10 different ways to set up a local user account on Windows. So hopefully this will work when you test this. Now, just some tips and tricks before we get started. When you see a window like this, you need to click on it so that it gets focused. So click on the world as an example, and you're going to use the commands Shift F10 in a lot of these examples, or FN Shift F10. Depends if you're using a laptop or not, and depends on your laptop provider. So either Shift F10, and you have to click on the little box to give it focus to type the commands in, or FN Shift F10. Now for this demonstration, I've downloaded and set up various versions of Windows. I've got Windows 11, 25H2, so that is 26200. I've also downloaded Insider Previews. So I've gone to the Microsoft Windows Insider Preview downloads page, and I have downloaded the various versions of Windows 11. So I have, as an example, the Dev Channel Insider Preview 26200, because some of the methods stopped working in that release. I've also got the beta, or beta if you prefer, release, as well as the release preview channel, as well as the Canary channel, just to show you some of the differences. Use the timestamps in the video to jump from one demo to another, but I'm going to start off with the most simple way to do this and then gradually show you some more complex methods. So hopefully the initial methods will work for you. If they don't, then try some of the other more complex methods. Okay, so in this example, my virtual machine is booted up. What I'm going to do is click on this window, and then I'm going to press Shift F10 to bring up an administrator command prompt. What I'll do here is make the font slightly bigger so that it's easier to see. So there you go. I'm going to type version. You don't have to do this. I simply want to show you the version of Windows that I'm running. So it says version 10, 26200. It's actually Windows 11, 25H2, and then 26200. So I downloaded the Windows 11 25H2 English x64 ISO from Microsoft, and that's what I'm using on this virtual machine. So the first method that you need to try, this is one of the easiest methods, is to type start ms- or dash if you prefer, cxh, or local only. And what that will do is allow you to create a user on this PC, and I'll just specify my username of David. I won't put a password in, and I'll click next. And what you'll see now is I don't have to connect to the internet if I don't want to, and my Windows machine is being set up. So there you go, Windows is being set up. I can now choose my privacy settings. I'm going to turn off all of these options, and I'm going to click accept. And there you go. Windows has started. If I click on here, you can see this is a local account, or if you prefer, I'll go to system. You can see David is a local account on this computer. I'm going to type WinVersion, and you can see I'm running Microsoft Windows version 25H2 build 26200 6584. So hopefully that method will work for you, but if it doesn't, like it won't do in this version of Windows, I'll show you another method that works. Okay, so here is a different version of Windows. I'm going to press Shift F10 again. So version of Windows is 26220 now. That's a different version. Previous version was 26200. So this is a different version. And now if I try and do start ms-cxh, local only, let's see what happens in this version of Windows. So I'm going to press enter. You'll notice it shows a pop-up to allow you to set your username, but it simply reboots. That doesn't work in this release. So again, start ms-cxh or local only. That doesn't work in this release of Windows. But that's not going to stop us. So that method only works in some versions of Windows. If you get a new laptop today, it'll probably still work at the time of this recording. But if you are downloading a new ISO, it may stop working. Now, I did say I was going to go from easy to hard, but I'm going to jump a little bit ahead because my first method didn't work here. So I'm going to show you sort of my third method, and then I'll go and show you my second method. But don't worry too much about the order. This is the way that still works on the latest insider builds of Microsoft Windows. So instead of pressing Shift F10, so what I'm going to do is click on the window to give it focus and press Control+Shift+J. So this brings up the developer console, which allows us to type a long-winded command to get Windows to create a local user account. But if my previous method doesn't work, then you can try this method. Now, I have found that this sometimes requires you to press the keys multiple times. So if you have a problem getting this to work, press Control+Shift+J multiple times or J multiple times and see if it brings up this window. And then what we're going to do here is type WinJS.Application and type it exactly like I've got it on screen, restart ms-cxh local only. So the ms-cxh local command didn't work in command prompt, but here what you'll notice it did work. We get a prompt to set up a user. So I'll press escape now to close that down. And now I can specify my username of David and click next. And this works even though you connect it to the internet. So you don't have to disconnect yourself from the internet to get this to work. That is a nice, easy way that works on a new version of Windows. This is an insider preview again, 26220 dev channel. So I'll choose my privacy settings. Not that it matters too much for this VM, but you probably want to set those and then click accept, and notice I'm in Windows now. If I click on my user, notice it's a local account. So David is a local account. I can see it that way. Or if I go to my system, you can see David local account, and I'll just type WinVer here. You can see this is Microsoft Windows 11 version 25H2, and the build number is 26220.7523. So even on the latest dev version, this method still works. Okay, so that's two methods that work. You can either use the method that I showed in the previous part of this video, where you use a command prompt, or you can use this alternate method. Now this method works on 25H2, but doesn't work on the insider build. So you may have to look at my other method to get this to work on later versions of Windows. Have a look at this timestamp once again to see the previous method using the developer console that worked if this method doesn't work for you. But this is quite an easy method. When you see the screen, click on the window so that it gets focus. Press Shift F10. You may have to use FN Shift F10 depending on your laptop. So some laptops will require you to use FN. And what I'm going to do now is disable the network card. The version of Windows that I'm running is Windows 11 25H2 and this release. And the first thing I'm going to type is ncpa.cpl. And that allows me to look at my network adapters. And what you need to do here is disable your network adapter first. So for this method to work, you need to disable your network adapter. So here we are going to run a script basically by typing OOBE BypassNRO. Now just to show you what that does, you don't have to do the following. You're just going to press enter at that point. But I'm going to show you what that does. This is a little script that I'm going to open in Notepad. So basically what it does is it runs a little script that writes an entry to the registry of the computer, and then it reboots the computer. So that's basically what we're doing here. We're going to run the script that basically writes an entry to the registry and then starts the computer again. So I'm going to press enter now, and there you go. The computer reboots. Now on this version of Windows, it doesn't work. So if I press Shift F10 and try and run that command, so OOBE /BypassNRO, it tells me that that command doesn't exist. So it doesn't work in this later version of Windows, 26220, but my next method will work where you add this to the registry manually. So I'll show you that in the next method. Okay, so we're back here now. I'm going to select my country as United States, select my keyboard as US. I'm not going to add a second keyboard, but notice this option here now. When it wants me to connect to the internet, I can say I don't have internet. And now I can specify my name. So let's say David, click next. I'm not going to set a password. I'm not going to allow tracking. So turn off all these options and I'm going to click accept. Okay, so there you go. Again, my username is David. It's a local account. Right click here, go look at system. You can see it's a local account. I'll run WinVer, and you can see this is version 25H2 and build 26200. Now don't forget to enable your network adapters. So I'm going to open up Control Panel, go to Network and Internet, Network and Sharing, change adapter settings, and I'm going to enable my network adapter so that I have internet access. This method doesn't work on later versions, but it does currently work on 25H2. So far, that's 3 methods. Let's look at another method. Okay, so in this method, we're basically going to manually add entries to the registry to copy a script that Microsoft used to provide in previous versions of Windows. In this version of Windows, the previous methods still worked, so have a look at those if you want an easier method, but this is a slightly harder method. Not that it's really that difficult, but basically what we're going to do here, I'm going to press Shift F10, and if you're on a laptop, you may have to use FN Shift F10. So use those keystrokes together. I have got a command prompt open here. The first thing I'm going to do is disable my network adapters. So NCPA CPL. So I'm going to disable all network adapters here. I've only got one. You may have Wi-Fi and other network adapters here. Disable all of them. And don't forget when you boot into Windows to go and re-enable the network adapters that you want enabled. So I've disabled my network adapters. And what I'm going to do now is type regedit to bring up the registry editor. So I'm going to expand HKey local machine by clicking on the little arrow. Click on software, click on Microsoft, scroll down, click on Windows, click current version. Going down, we've got this option OOBE. So I'm actually going to click on OOBE rather than just expand it. By clicking on it, we can see these registry entries on the right-hand side. I'm going to right-click in this white space and click New DWORD 32-bit value. And I'm going to make it BypassNRO. Make sure that you set your case correctly. This, once again, is basically doing what the script does automatically that they've removed from Windows. I'm going to right-click and click Modify, and I'm going to set the value to 1. And I'm going to click OK. And then back in my command prompt, I'll use the command shutdown / R for reboot, T for time 0. So in other words, this is going to reboot immediately. And there you go. This works on both versions, so new and old method. Just make sure that you disable your network adapter when you do this. Okay, so I'm going to say United States, keyboard is US, skip adding an additional keyboard. Notice I'm not connected to the internet because I disabled the network adapter, and I'm going to click I don't have internet. And now I can specify my local username, which is David. I'll skip the password. I'll disable all this telemetry, and I'll click accept. Okay, and there you go. So once again, this is a local account. I can see that by going to system as well. So local account, WinVer shows me the version of Windows. This also works on later releases of Windows. So if the script doesn't work, you can do it this way. Now don't forget to enable your network adapters. So I'm going to open up Control Panel, go to Network and Internet, Network and Sharing, change adapter settings, and I'm going to enable my network adapter so that I have internet access. You obviously don't have to do it that way. There are various ways to enable your network adapters, but don't forget to enable your network adapters once Windows boots up so that you can use your computer normally. Just enable all the network adapters that you want to over here as an example. Now for this method, you don't have to disable the internet. I'm going to press Shift F10 here. The version I'm using here, and I have to click into that window, the version I'm using here is an insider preview 26220. And what I'm going to do is run regedit, and I'm going to add an entry to the registry. So I'm going to open up HKey local machine, open software, open Microsoft by clicking on the little arrow. We're going to go to Windows. We're going to select current version, and we're going to click on OOBE. So rather than just expanding it, we are going to actually click on OOBE. And I'm going to click in the white space here and say new 32-bit DWORD. So again, right click in the white space, new DWORD 32-bit value. I'm going to change it to hide online account screens. Make sure you type it exactly like I've typed it. I'm going to right click on that, click modify, set the value to 1, and click OK. We're now going to shut down the computer and reboot it. So shutdown / R for reboot, time equals 0. So now what I'm going to do is select my country as United States, set my keyboard to US, not going to add a second keyboard. I'm going to accept the license agreement, and notice I can set a username of David now. I am online at the moment, so to prove that point, I'll just open up a command prompt, and I'm going to ping 8.8.8, so Google's DNS server. So I am on the internet, and I can set up a local user account with a password if I want. I'm not going to set up a password. I'm going to click next, turn off all this tracking nonsense, and click accept. So you can see that it's looking for Windows updates. I am online. I personally would disable the internet just to get the machine up and running, and then I can run the updates later. But the updates are running at this point. My account is a local account. If I go to system, you can see it's a local account. And if I run winver, you can see this is Windows 11 version 25H2 26220.2523. I was able to set up a local account even though I'm connected to the internet by adding that entry to the registry. In this example, I'm using Insider 26220. So I'm going to right click on the window here, Shift F10. I'm going to change the font to 28. And again, the version is that. What I'm going to do here is type net user, my name, David, space /add. So net space user space my name space /add. That allows me to create a user. I'm going to then use the command net or local group administrators. My username David again /add. So I'm adding David to the administrators group. You would obviously substitute David with whichever name you want to use. I'm going to go to OOBE, so that directory, and then I'm going to type ms-cxh. So I just press tab to autocomplete there. & shutdown -R to reboot the computer. Notice I'm getting a message saying the username or password is not correct. So I'm going to click OK there, and notice my username David is shown and I'm welcomed to Windows. Now in this example, I didn't disconnect the internet. I'm still connected to the internet. We're told that it might take a few minutes to set this up. Okay, so I'm going to turn off all this tracking nonsense again and click accept. And there you go. We're in Windows. Computer's connected to the internet. I have a local account. If I go to system, you can see David is a local account. If I click on accounts, notice I am an administrator on the system. If I click on other users, I see a default user 0 account there, which I can remove because I only want my David account. So going to accounts now, I have only David as accounts on this computer. Okay, so you may prefer that method. It's quite a simple method actually, working on this version of Windows at the moment. So version 25H2, build 26220.7523. Now this method's a bit more complicated. We're going to set up a local administrator account. So I'm going to right click on the window here, Shift F10 to bring up a administrator command prompt. I'll make this a bit bigger. The version of Windows I'm using here is 26220. So this is an insider release. Some of the other methods didn't work, some of them did, but here's another option if the other methods don't work for you. First thing I'm going to do is create a user, and I'm going to make a user called David. Now I've put this in quotation marks. You don't have to if it's a single user, but just to be safe, do that because you might have a user where you put their first name and last name. So if I said David Bombal, I'd have to put that in quotation marks. So net user, the name of the user, in my case, David, add. So net users will show me that I have David as an administrator and I've got this default user. Now it's already added me there, but I'm going to add myself to the administrators group just to make sure. Again, I have seen others do this. Let's see if it made any difference. Again, I'm not taking credit for this. Shout out to the amazing creators who put this out there. So net user, you can see David is once again in the administrators group. I was there already, so probably didn't have to do that. Net user, David, active, yes. Again, users there. I'm going to set it so that the password never expires. You could change some of these options to whatever you want, but I'm going to set my user's password to never expire. I am going to disable the administrator username, and then I'm going to say net user default user 0, delete to delete that user. So I had that user previously over there, but let's delete them. So if I type net user now, you'll notice that user account has disappeared. Next thing I'm going to do is start regedit, and we're going to go to HKey local machine. I'm going to go to software, Microsoft, scroll down to Windows, go to current version and select OOBE. And as you can see, there are some entries here that we're going to delete. We're going to delete this default account action, default account SAM name, default account SID. So I'll simply delete that, delete this one, delete this one. I'm going to right click on this option, launch user OOBE, and we're going to rename it skip machine OOBE. So just make sure you get the case right. And then I'm going to right click and click modify and make sure that that value is set to 1 and click OK. I'll close regedit down, back in my command prompt, shutdown /reboot time equals 0 to get the machine to reboot. Now in this example again, I'm still connected to the internet. You can see my user David is showing up. If you get an error about the password being wrong, simply click OK and continue. Okay, so I'll disable all the telemetry nonsense and click accept, and there you go. I've got Windows up and running. You can see that this is a local account. I can also see that by going to system, local account, and if I type WinVer here, you can see the version is 25H2, build 262207523. Okay, that's a more complicated way, but it did allow us to create a local user account simply by using net user commands. So it'd be interesting to see if Microsoft can remove that method. Probably unlikely, but let's see what the future holds. That is quite a complicated method, but isn't the only method that you can use. Hopefully some of the other methods that I showed previously worked for you, easier methods, but this is another method that you could use. Now in this method, we're assuming that you're using a version of Windows where OOBE doesn't work anymore. But before I show you that, let me show you what it does in version 25H2. So in this version, if I open up a command prompt, if I go to OOBE, there's a file here called BypassNRO.cmd. So if I open that up in Notepad, you'll notice basically what this is a little script. So echo off just means that the output is not shown on screen when the batch script is running. They are adding an entry to the registry. So they are going to HKey local machine, software, Microsoft Windows, current version, OOBE, and then they're adding this option to the registry. And then they are rebooting the computer. So all I've done now is I've saved that to a USB drive. Now, on this new version of Windows, if I go to OOBE and then try and look for that BypassNRO script, it doesn't exist. So BypassNRO file isn't there. If I press backspace and try and tab it, notice that doesn't work. Whereas in previous versions of Windows, if I just type bypass and press tab, notice the command is there. So that doesn't exist on this version of Windows, but that's not going to stop us just doing this ourselves. So we could create a batch script ourselves, or we could just type these values into the command prompt ourselves. So what I've done here is I have got a flash drive, which I'll connect to this computer now, and I'll start Notepad, and I'm going to open the file on the flash drive. So BypassNRO CMD. Now you might think, okay, well, you don't have access to the script. I'll just put the commands below this video. Literally all we're going to do here is we are going to type that command into command prompt. So rather than trying to run the script, you could just type it here, or you could just run the script from the flash drive. So literally all I'm doing, I mean, it's an extremely basic script. It just adds an entry to the registry, and then this will just reboot the computer. So either type the commands manually or just run the script from a flash drive as an example. So if you've got the script on a flash drive, you could simply plug it in and run the batch script from a flash drive if you preferred. Here I just manually copied it into command prompt. Now one thing to note is you need to be disconnected from the internet. So what I'm going to do is open up a command prompt again, and I'm going to type ncpa cpl so that I can disable my network adapter. So because I'm using a VM here, I see Ethernet 0, you might have a wireless adapter. So I'm going to disable the adapters there and then just re-enable them once Windows is back. So just disable all network adapters. And then I'm going to select my country and region. Keyboard is US, skip keyboard layout. And notice now it says we need to be connected to the internet. It's not working. We're not going to do that. I'm just going to say I have no internet. Accept the license. Name is David, or whatever your username is going to be. I'm going to set no password here, and I'm going to uncheck those options, click accept, and now Windows will start up. Okay, and there you go. Once again, this is a local account. I can see that by going to system again. There it says local account, and the version of Windows that I'm running here is 25H2 26220. So that's another method you can use. You could just create your own batch script as an example. So, I mean, literally just run the script off your external hard drive. So just run that, and that'll add stuff to the registry. So I've restored my snapshot. I'm back at the same place where we always are, where we're skipping things. So in this example, just depending whether you've jumped here or you've just been following along, what I've done is I have connected a USB to this virtual machine. I mean, you would simply plug in your USB drive into your computer if it was a physical computer. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to VM removable drives, and I'm going to connect my drive to the VM. Now, there are many ways to do this, but I'm just going to use Explorer to see the name of my drive. In this case, you can see it's E. So D is my DVD, E is my new disk that was plugged in. So I'm just going to go to E drive and type dir to see the files there. And you can see this is the file that I want to run. It's actually a text file. So I'm going to copy BypassNRO text file, and I'll just make it a batch script like that. So dir shows my script there. So that's the script I want to run. So I'm literally just going to say BypassNRO cmd to run my script. And as you can see, the computer has rebooted. This is essentially the NRO script that comes with previous versions of Windows. You don't need access to that. I've copied the script below, so you can just copy that and create a batch script yourself. When the computer reboots, we want to make sure that we've disabled internet access. So I'll show you that in a second. But the moral of the story here is that you are creating a script. So Shift F10 here again. I'm going to click in here, NCPA CPL, and then I'm going to disable my network adapter. You need to disable all the network adapters that you have so that you don't have access to the internet, and just re-enable them at the end of this process. Region is US, keyboard is US, skip additional keyboard, and say I don't have internet, accept the license. My name is going to be David. Password I'm not going to set. I am going to turn off all the tracking, click accept, and there you go. The system will be set up. Now don't forget that you need to enable your network adapters once your system is back. Obviously that depends if you want to have internet access or not, but you probably do. So you're going to want to enable the various network adapters like your Wi-Fi adapter, etc. Okay, so there you go. You can see that my account is a local account. You can see that as well inside system, local account over there. WinVer will show us the version of Windows we're using. So it's version 25H2, and in this case, 26220. Because I'm old, I'm going to use Control Panel to enable my network adapters. You could do it another way if you prefer. Network Internet, Network and Sharing Center, change adapter settings, and then I'm going to enable my network adapter so that I have access to the internet. You would enable Wi-Fi, etc., so that you can go online. Okay, so there you go, another method. Now there are other ways to do this as well. I think that's enough at this point. However, let me know if you want to know the other ways. A simple way as an example is if you're using a professional version rather than a home version, you can tell it to join a domain, but simply don't connect it to the domain. Just use a local account. You can also use Rufus with an ISO to create a version that bypasses the requirement to set up an account. And you can also use an XML unattended script to do this as well. So there are even more methods. If you want me to cover those methods as well, please let me know. But I think I've covered enough here. Some of these options aren't necessarily that obvious and aren't explained that often on YouTube. So hopefully this has added value and given you many, many options to set up a local account. Let me know if you want me to create more methods. But otherwise, thanks very much for watching. I'm David Bombal, and I want to wish you all the very best.